Okay, so in this video I'm going to be showing you how to run your film from your shaker to your printer and then run prints through your shaker. Okay, so here are the things that you'll need to connect the film from the shaker to the printer to run your prints. A pair of scissors, a stapler, your extra roll of film for the front, some aluminum tape, and I normally cut that into pieces. I'll just cut in pieces and I'll preset it so that it's ready to go. So I just rip off a piece of the corner and then I'll do a bunch of those to have them already ready to go. So when I'm ready to connect the films together, then we can connect it quick. But yeah, you'll need to cut a couple of these into pieces and we'll go over and start connecting that all now and I'll show you how that's done. So you'll have two rolls of access film. You've got one at the back for your finished roll, and you're gonna have one, just a little roll at the front so that we can feed the finish through. Okay, you're gonna start off by lifting up your oven. Lift up the cover, let it go gently. Take your roll, and start pulling that through, down through the front. Pull it straight across until you have enough to get over to the other side of the film, where the film's coming out of the printer. And this is kind of where we're going to connect it. We'll bring enough to get to the front of the film there, and then we'll work on putting the powder in after. We're going to do the connection right now, so let's do that. Okay, so we're ready to run our film. This is the part where you'll need a stapler. And you'll need a couple of pieces of the aluminum tape. And what you're going to do is you're going to run the piece from the shaker, and the film that's coming out of the printer has to go over the film coming out of the shaker. So you're not going to want to put the film coming out of the shaker over like this. You want to make sure that you take the printer film, flip it up a little bit, and then allow it to go over the film coming from the shaker. And then what you want to do is you want to line up both sides so they're nice and even. And then once you get that alignment, you're going to take a piece of your tinfoil tape that's ready to go already. Peel it off and stick it on. I like to use two pieces just to make sure it holds as it goes through. And just throw another piece on there. And after the tape's put on, you've got to kind of press it down. So I use the back of a stapler. You can use the back of scissors if you want. Just something with like a rounded edge that's flat that you can kind of press that tape down with. You want to make that tape nice and flat to the film. Again, or you could use the back of scissors. Just flatten that out. And so once you get this tape down, then you're going to want to take a stapler, and on each side, just put two staples. Make sure they go in. Two on each side, and that will ensure that the film is being held as it goes through the shaker. Okay, so once that's all connected there, we're going to move over to here and we are going to add our powder. So from this point, we're not going to be pulling from the front anymore, we're going to be pulling from the back side. So there's still access film on the back, enough to allow us to push this down, pulling from the back, and just allowing a little dip there to go inside, and that is for the powder. So you just kind of push the film down inside. Just past your sensor there. Okay, so here's what it looks like inside. So I'm just going to push that down until it's just past this part here and just make sure it's on each side. It looks like that. It's kind of inside, nice and straight. And now we'll add our powder inside there. Okay, you can either put it in from the bag. If you have some excess left over, you can take it out of your bottom tray here and just re-put it back inside. So you're just gonna let it fall to the bottom. Not too much, just enough to allow the weight to go down to hit the sensor. And then you can put your remainder that you have, of course, inside here. So that's how much is inside. It's enough to weigh it down. And I just sort of even it across. You can do this with a paintbrush if you want, or some kind of brush, or I wear gloves and I just kind of push it across nice and even. It's keeping that weight down, and then as it rains on it with the shaker here, it'll rain the powder on top, and it'll keep that level maintained so the weight stays down for the sensor. And at this point now, you can close your lid. And we are pretty much ready to get going from this point. Okay, so from this point we can turn our controls on. So just ensure that the emergency stop isn't pushed and it's popped out. And then power on. Now you don't have to turn your heat on right away. We can keep that off for a minute because it heats up pretty quick. So I usually wait until I start printing. So once you start printing, then you can hit this heat button on. And you can leave these switches off as well. Your shaker switch and your dust switch. So the shake switch is of course what bangs your powder off, and your dust switch is for your dusting, to rain the powder onto there. Okay, so once you flick your power on, and just flick the power button only on, you can kind of test to make sure everything's running through fine. So you've got the powder in, you've got your roller turned on, just make sure it's rolling the right way. In this case, the switch is down, and that's going to allow it to roll the film in your finished product. So what you can do to make sure that that's going, by just hitting the down button, and when I press down, it should feed through and that roller should move. So I'm going to feed it a bit. Take a look there. Make sure it's coming up, and make sure that this is rolling. So I'm going to push down and you'll see that it's rolling properly. And as it prints, it's going to be taking in. So now I know my powder's right. It's taking in all my finish properly on the back roll. So now we're ready to hit print, and it should print straight through. And then I'll show you when to start putting your power or your powder, your shake switch, your dust switch, and your heat switch on. Okay, so from Print XP, of course, you've got the gang sheet loaded. You're just going to hit that print button, and then it's going to start printing and moving. And as you can see, as it's printing and moving, the roller is slowly rolling that finished up. So all the sensors are working fine, everything's working fine. And now that you have your prints coming out, you're going to want to go over to your controls. And here's where you're going to start with your heat. We'll just get the heat going so it's all nice and heated up for when it gets there. You're heating at about 117, in between 117 and 120 for your best DTFs out of this machine in particular. That can be adjusted accordingly, of course, to the amount that you're printing and the speed that it's printing. Okay, so we're going to start with our shaker switch, and that is what bangs off the powder, because we have powder going in there right now, so we want that to start banging off. So you're going to hit your shaker switch on, and this is your shaker speed control. So this is the speed that it's going to spin and bang that off. So you're going to want that at a relatively good speed to get that powder banging off. And then once you see there's no more powder going on, then that's about your setting. So in this case, we're set to about 55, and that is going to bang off enough. If you find that it's not, of course, just turn it up accordingly, and you can bang off more. Then, of course, you're going to come over to your dust switch, which allows the powder to rain on top of your print and to maintain the weight of the powder at the bottom. So just hit your dust switch on. This is your dust speed control of how much comes out at once. So you just kind of turn it up slowly, and you'll start to see this spin, and it'll start to rain there. So with these controls, they're really touchy. It's very, very, very small that you need to do to have it coming out. So I usually have it going at a really slow rate, which is a level 10. So the speed control is 10 here, and that'll just allow it to rain nicely onto the print and maintain that weight for the sensor. So sometimes you'll find it, maybe it's stopped like kind of rolling, and it's kind of dipping there. And the reason for that is just because there's not enough powder going through. That's all that is. So it just needs to be weighed. So what I would do at that point is just turn up my dust speed. So just turn the dust up so it rains a bit more, so it maintains that weight. That's all that is. Okay, so when you're done your print and it's finished printing, you're going to leave the machine on still, and you're going to push down on this at the speed as if it's printing. So just keep hitting the down button and let it feed slowly through. It's as if it's printing. You're only going to want to go the speed of the print. You don't want to push it too fast, because then your prints will go through and they will not get cured properly. So it's got to be about the same speed that the printer prints. So you got to get that timing right. Just press it nice and slow. And then once you get it to about here, where there's enough of a gap of dead film, I'll just put that down a little bit more. Then we're going to connect the other piece of film to this one. And while you're doing that, you can just turn these controls off temporarily with the heat so it doesn't over-cure, and just that'll allow you enough time to connect it. Okay, so from this point, you're going to take that magnet and you can just drop it right in the center of the film so it holds the film, so after you cut it, it still stays still. So just get a nice cut, keep it as straight as you can, nice straight cut across. This is where you'll need that extra roll to connect it to the front so we can feed the rest of it through slowly. Okay, so here's where you'll need a stapler, of course, 2 more pieces of your aluminum foil tape or aluminum tape, and the extra roll, just an extra piece of film that we're going to use to feed it through. So all you do is kind of put the roll down so it stays put in place here. But before you do that, just hit back a bit on your film, just a little bit. Just bring your film back to here so you have a bit of a gap to work with here. Then just allow the roll to sort of roll back so you can work with it. And then you're putting this one over the printer one, or over the film coming out of the shaker. So again, just put it over it, line it up on each side so each side is lined up. And this magnet is holding it still, so it'll allow us to do that. You want to bring it past this film about that much so you can put the staples in it. So once you get it down and it's straight on each side and nice and even, take your tape, And tape it down on each side. And one there. One here. Now don't move that magnet yet. Trying to press this down. Again, with the back of your scissors or the back of the stapler, something with a flat surface, it'll press that down nicely without ripping or tearing it. And then on each side, of course, 2 staples. And on the other side. And now you're ready to push that the rest of the way through. But before we move this, we got to start the machine up again. Okay, so once that's connected, again, you're going to leave the magnet in for a minute, leave everything put, because as soon as you pull the magnet out, it's going to want to pull itself through. So we've got to hold on to that after. So I'll show you that part in a sec. But so once that's done, then you're going to go back to your controls and you're just going to hit all 3 of them back on again. You're going to check your temperature. I let that go for a little bit, so just make sure that your temperature is up to 117, and then you start running it through again. Okay, so our temperature's back up to par. We're ready to take this off and feed it the rest of our DTFs through to finish it off. So you're going to be holding the roll that you have here firmly, not allowing this to go through, just kind of holding back a little bit as you remove the magnet. Just put the magnet aside. And now what you're doing, all I'm doing is I'm moving slowly and I'm acting like the printer right now. And it's going through here slowly. I'm just moving very slowly up, allowing this to cure at the same speed it was printing. This part will take a little practice, but practice makes perfect. And just trying to go through slow. Again, not allowing it to go through too fast because then it will undercure. And just keep bringing it ever so slightly slow, again, as if it's printing, so that it gets the same curing as all the rest. When I get to this point, all I'm doing is just unrolling it in my hand slowly, so it just takes it away with it until it gets to the end. Until this part here where it's connected, of course, is on the other side, and all your DTFs are done at that point. I'm just unraveling it slowly, allowing it to go through nice and slow, same speed as the printer. You can watch it here, you can kind of see if you're watching it as it's printing, you're kind of getting an idea on the speed that you have to go through here. So if you watch it while it's printing, then you kind of know about what speed to allow it to go through, and you can just watch here, and as I'm letting go of this or allowing more of this film to go, it's moving it through. So I'm trying to get that right pace. As you're watching here, you can see now that I'm almost done. I've come up to where I connected it, so I know I've only got a little bit more to feed through. Again, just allow it to feed through right to the end, nice and slow. Where it connects, sometimes if you don't staple it down properly, it'll get stuck up on the side. So just make sure that you just kind of help it through if it needs it. And also you can lift this up a little bit to allow it to go through. Now they're almost done. Again, just allowing this, just unrolling it slowly in my hand until it goes through. Now, if you're doing this and you notice that it's not, you're letting some go, but it's not going through, that could mean that you didn't staple down something properly and it could get caught in there. Just lift it up, have a look-see, see what the problem is, fix it, and then put it back down. Okay, so now we're all the way through. We've come to the end. Well, it's not enough weight, so now I just got to allow a little more weight for it to go through. I wasn't letting go enough there. So just once you get to this point, now you can stop everything, shut her down completely. This access roll you can just put down for a sec until you disconnect it over here. Of course, we disconnect at this point. Take that off. Take the access off. Make sure the staples are out of this before you put it back through so staples aren't falling inside it. So just pull the staples off, discard. Once everything's clean and you have a clean piece of film here, you can roll that one back up. Just take that roll, make it a roll again. Now you're gonna have powder in here, so you just wanna knock that off. So you can kind of lift up on the film and allow it, just give it a shake. And allow one end to like sort of fall into it. And then just shake all that powder off. Then once all the powder's off, just roll this up for your next print. And now that's ready for your next print, and we can roll up our finished product now. So when I'm rolling this up, and just making sure you take off anything or any tape or staples that are in there. And now what I do is I start rolling backwards. So you roll back, allowing the print to be on the outside. Start your rolling. Now you just roll up and roll it down. Now you should have a pair of scissors on hand for when you get to the end of this, or if you have multiple gang sheets, you can cut them off individually as you go and then tape them up accordingly until you get to the end of course, all your gang sheets. So now I've reached the end of this one. I'm gonna roll that. Now we connected it there, but you can actually leave that if you want. If it's a good connection and it's solid, you can just leave it in there. I'm gonna get some scissors, cut off the finished product. Try to keep it relatively straight because you're gonna have to reconnect it again, of course, for your next print. So now we got the finished print. You can tape it up, put an elastic band around it, however you do it, just to hold that together. Oops, let's get that on there. And now you've got your finished DTFs. With this roll here, just roll it back into itself until your next print, until you're ready to feed it through again and start that whole process again. So after you got your finished roll done, you've got that rolled back up. You're gonna wanna come over to your controls. You're gonna wanna shut the power off completely. Make sure that's shut off. You can even push the stop button in to ensure everything's cut. And you're gonna wanna unplug your shaker for the evening at the end of the day. So just make sure that your shaker is unplugged. And then you plug it back in and do that whole process when you're ready to print again.